going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Big Ten champions. Big Ten champs.
National champions, yes.
Oklahoma City bound the Oregon Ducks.
Awesome day to be a Duck, man.
Boom inside. Touchdown Oregon. He gets loose. Fires. Hit. Pops the three. Oh, yeah. It's all Oregon.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider.
It's about how to be a group of people that know how to love each other to the absolute fullest.
Pleasure, joy to be with them each and every day. And I can't wait for the future.
It's just fun to be a part of a community that cares, that is passionate, and when we come together, powerful things can happen.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck athletics.
A Wednesday here inside the Country Financial Studios. Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Wednesday, getting you geared up for the week ahead in Oregon athletics. And it starts tonight. Oregon men's basketball game day in a late night tip-off against the Portland Pilots. An 8 p.m. tip-off on Big Ten Network. Joey will have the call for you on the Oregon Sports Network starting at 7:30 is when Joey will take over on the call for his pregame show. It's going to be a full day of Oregon versus Pilots in-state basketball as after Oregon and the men are done with Portland tonight, Oregon and the women will tip off against Portland tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. to keep you going throughout the week, as it's another purple school that's in town on the gridiron for the college football playoff, as Oregon will play James Madison on Saturday. A 4:30 kickoff for the Ducks on Saturday. TNT, HBO Max, True TV, where you can watch Oregon against James Madison in the college football playoff. On the show today, Dan Lanning will continue to preview this matchup against James Madison. Also, our sideline reporter Dusty Harrah was here, and he will talk about the matchup against James Madison for Oregon football. Also, some news and awards individually for Oregon football. More All-American honors for Emmanuel Pregnon and Dylan Thieneman. First team All-American Emmanuel Pregnon, second team All-American Dylan Thieneman. That is by the Sporting News publication. More All-Americans is now Emmanuel Pregnon with an opportunity to become a consensus All-American as the awards continue to roll through. Also All-American honors for Oregon volleyball's Alana Clemente, a third team All-American announced for the freshman Alana Clemente by the AVCA. It's the 18th All-American in program history. Congratulations to Alana Clemente for being named an All-American, as well as the Oregon football All-Americans that came out throughout the last few days, and especially this morning, the honors for Dylan Thieneman and Emmanuel Pregnon. We heard from Coach Lanning on Monday previewing the matchup. Now a little bit more into game week, a little bit more into the film, a little bit more into the preparation. The game's even closer around the corner. Dan Lanning, his thoughts. We got two parts of this with Dan Lanning. Just came off the podium less than 2 hours ago. What are Coach Lanning's thoughts previewing this matchup against James Madison here on a Wednesday? Let's hear from the coach.
Euroline's goal for years has been starting each meeting, Joe Mullen, up for it again, whether they get it or not, man, with E-Man being up for potentially consensus All-American, as well as they played, the depth you've had to show. What's made this year's group as deserving or more than even the past couple of years' groups?
Well, I just think, first, Coach Terry's done an unbelievable job, and Coach Walk, Coach Cutter, the Whipple, Coach Warmack, the guys in that room of creating continuity. Those awards, what's great about the Joe Moore Award is it's not an individual award, right? It's one that recognizes the group as a unit. And we've had a bunch of different guys on the field this season. I think that's one of the pieces, the strength in numbers element. We've proven we can be physical and run the ball. This year, we protected the quarterback, and it's a challenge. Every year it's a cat and mouse game, offense and defense, and those guys have been very consistent. That level of consistency, and then the ability to run the ball in tough situations, protect the quarterback against tough looks, I think speaks volumes about the prep that those guys do and how much they care about each other.
I meant to ask this on Monday, so I apologize. But can you describe Tosh's impact in the 4 years that he's been here of changing the narrative of Oregon's defense nationally? And there's been good defenses here, but now it's relatively known. Hey, every year they're going to be pretty good. And just his impact in changing that narrative here.
Yeah, it's done an unbelievable job. I think it starts with a mindset, that there's a standard to operate to, and we've grown every single year when it comes to what's that standard, and then leveling up. What's the expectation? Never satisfied. That's something that he brings, to work every single day. That mentality of, where can we improve? Where can we get better? That growth mindset, and then ultimately, like, what's championship defense look like? And that's the standard we want to hold ourselves to. And it's shown up every year. We've adapted and adjusted as we do that. He's leaned on his staff. Have a great defensive staff that he's been able to lean on. We've had really good players, and so all those things add up and create, success for us on that side of the ball. And certainly Tosh has been a huge part of that.
Since we got to talk to you on Monday, Will and Tosh have both been up here, and they got asked, like, why did you stay on? And they gave just full throat defense, and they said, Tosh said, just over my dead body, I was going to stay here. I know it's not a surprise to you, but just what does it mean to have them say that?
I mean, it's the expectation when you hire good people that you want to see something through, right? And, this is unique, man. This is a blessing to get to be a part of what we're, there's only 12 teams in the nation that still get to play football right now. Anybody that wouldn't want to be a part of that's crazy, right? But also the acknowledgement, obviously, for both those guys, they know they're not in those, in those opportunities if they, didn't do a great job here with the help of those players. And those guys deserve, our team deserves those guys best down the stretch. And, it's a very similar mindset of, man, job not finished. They want to be able to finish this thing out. And there's going to be a bright future ahead for those guys and what they have going on next. But it's just something you want to be a part of.
Coach, you talked about strength of numbers on the line, but you could say that's been the whole case around this whole unit this season. How invaluable has that been this season when you guys have dealt with the adversity of losing people through injuries and losing games? How do you feel like that's helped and prepared you guys for these college football playoffs?
Yeah, you want everybody to be ready for their opportunity when it comes. But, there's been moments in the past where an injury happens and there's a huge slide off. There's a big difference in who's out in the field for you and what's going to look like. I think our coaches have done a really good job adapting, to the personnel that's available. And I think our players have done a great job stepping up and saying, okay, I'm the next guy up. I'm ready to go for those moments. And when you have that, you're able to have team success. So strength in numbers has been huge for us, bigger this year than any other year as far as guys that are able to play winning football. I know I said that going into a fall camp, and I feel like we have a lot of guys that can play winning football, and that's really shown up for us this season.
Talked a lot about the wearing of two hats for Will and Tosh, and for that matter.
Just noticed the kicks, by the way. Those are unique.
I appreciate it.
But they're Adidas, huh?
Well.
Yeah,
Anyway.
go ahead.
1 month a year, man. Anyway, we talked about the wearing of two hats, JMU staff also having to do it. How about what you have to also balance in terms of filling voids on the staff and with a portal opening in a couple of weeks? How you go about doing that and balancing that while game prep and being in the market for, I presume, a tight ends coach and an outside backers coach, or what are your options there?
Yeah, it's a fun challenge, right? But again, our focus right now is really this season, finishing this out. We got our group of guys here together, but I think, that's the fun part of college football. You got to adapt, you got to adjust. It's not how any of us would script it, but if we can do it better than anybody else, we'll be in great shape.
Hampton and Wadud both got nominated and named as defensive back coaches of the year. Can you maybe more so on Rashad of just his impact this year, his elevated position, and just kind of how he's helped your defense?
Yeah, what you won, he's a guy that played back when I was a GA at Arizona State. He was there. You'll remember him as a player, a guy that takes it serious. I think he has unbelievable connections with our players. Works extremely hard to hold his guys, again, to a high standard. He's very relatable to those guys. They can relate to him. He's played the position, so I think that speaks volumes, but works really well hand in hand with Coach Hampton and that whole defensive back room. And anytime you can eliminate explosive plays, I think that's going to be something you want to hang your hat on. That's certainly what that group's done this year with both Coach Hamp and Coach Wadud.
There are a lot of players that decided to come back this season to have another shot at going farther in the college football playoff. How have you kind of seen maybe some of those players that did suffer the loss last year and how has their leadership kind of shown through this week in preparation for the first game?
Yeah, very little talk really about, last season is so far behind us. But ultimately, I mean, everybody feels that. And those moments are all about growing from those moments. But I think we have a team that's worked really hard, been very consistent. The routine's been really dialed in, throughout this season. They've done a great job maintaining that throughout the year. It can be a long season. They've done a really good job maintaining it. And then they realize right now, it's win or go home, so they want to give their absolute best.
Coach, you said more than a week ago that at the end of senior day, you talked to some of the seniors saying that, I hope we get another opportunity to play here at Autzen. Obviously, you guys now get that opportunity. How have you seen some of the seniors step up during this weekend practice? And have you kind of seen that hunger for them to get one more opportunity to play at Autzen, obviously, this weekend?
Yeah, guys are excited about the opportunity, but I think it'd be wrong to say that this is, the preparation is different this week than any other week, right? Yes, the game's different. We all feel that. We recognize that it's different, but it's not like guys are like, okay, let's work hard now. They've been working hard, right? You work hard to get into this moment, and then it's about maintaining that level, that standard as you approach games like this.
Why was Oregon so well prepared to step into the Big Ten and dominate to a certain degree? And that's not to take away from the Pac-12. There was a very high level competition there, but why was Oregon built to step into the Big Ten and not miss a beat?
I think ultimately for our team, we've been building to a standard of what winning football looks like, regardless of conference, where you're at, what things win football games. And that's what our players have really been focused on. Our coaches have been focused on. I think that prepares you to say wherever you stick us that we're going to have an opportunity to be able to have successful. I think this league has made it a real challenge for us, which is exactly what you need throughout the season. And it's, there's a level of play and expectation. The travel can be a piece of that too. But all those things, our guys kind of see it ahead of us and see it as a challenge and an opportunity to grow. And, good football is good football, regardless of what leagues it in. So if you can play to that standard, it's going to be successful in a league like the Big Ten.
Oregon equipped in the Big Ten Conference. The reason why the Ducks won the Big Ten championship last year. Why Oregon at 11-1 this year is the number 5 seed headed into the college football playoff and hosting a playoff game this Saturday at 4:30 at Autzen Stadium against James Madison. That's just the first part of Coach Lanning's conversation with the media earlier today. Getting to part 2, more from Coach Lanning when we return after this. It's Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi, Jan from Toyota with a holiday message. Toyota-thon, Toyota-thon, Toyota-thon is on.
Dealer inventory may vary. Toyota-thon ends January 5th. See your participating dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hi, Jan from Toyota with a holiday message. Toyota-thon, Toyota-thon, Toyota-thon is on.
Dealer inventory may vary. Toyota-thon ends January 5th. See your participating dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch our soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Wednesday, just after Dan Lanning met with the media on the podium. And one thing you know is that Dan Lanning's Nikes were made for walking. That'll make sense in a second. Here's Coach Lanning, part 2 of the conversation.
Coach, when Signetti left for Indiana, he took 13 players from JMU. The new staff comes in, brings in 100 players in 2 years to rebuild this thing. Here they are in the playoffs. Can you maybe crystallize with how impressive that is, the heavy lifting that goes into that, and just the fact that they were able to do it in 2 years?
How impressive it is with Indiana?
No, I'm sorry, with JMU to rebuild themselves after losing Signetti.
Got you. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, for them to have success, I mean, it's a little bit of the college football, right? And the people that adapt the best and are prepared, I think it goes back into culture is a word that's probably overused a lot in football. But in these moments, when you talk about transition, obviously there has to be a culture reset and an opportunity for a bunch of guys to buy in and have a common goal. And I think, JMU certainly speaks to that of what they've been able to create, what Coach Chesney's been able to create over there with that like-minded goals, where they're headed, guys that play really hard, leaning in on the strengths of their players. They do a great job of leaning in on what guys are really good at and building to those players' strengths. But it takes complete buy-in to create what they've been able to create over there for sure.
Hey, Coach, I imagine since the regular season ended, there's been a lot of reflection and film study. I'm curious to get your evaluation of the linebackers and maybe what you're looking to see from that group as the playoff gets underway.
Yeah, one, I just think good decision makers. You see guys that they're really the quarterback of our defense, so for their ability to get our guys lined up to go execute, to play at a high level, it starts there because they have to relay the call and get that communicated to everybody else on the team. When that happens, when you have 11 guys playing the same call, that's credit to your linebackers, and that's credit to great communication. Certainly play moments that have been really, really high moments for us, and then moments that we can certainly improve. We attacked the ball really well early in the year. I've attacked the ball better here at the end of the year. We continue to want to improve tackling. Tackling is something that always shows up in postseason play that we want to make sure that we're really good at. But those guys, in a lot of ways, they help us play great ball because of how they get us lined up and execute.
Wanted to get your thoughts on the Caucasian collision unit, and given what you did to Logan back in the day, do you get like the Luke Wilson Godfather honorary role?
Yeah, Bryce was talking to me and saying I might be able to get an honorary, membership. We'll see. It's good having those guys back there flying around for us.
And you've had guys out with injury for 6 weeks, sometimes the whole season. How do you balance finding ways to fit them in, but also understanding a guy like Malik Benson and J-Mac have developed chemistry with Moore? And how do you balance that action of playing a guy who hasn't played all year now in the playoffs or hasn't played for a really long time?
Yeah, it's just that. It's a balance, right? It's you don't sprint back in and throw somebody into the fire. It's you build it as it goes, and we found strengths as guys have been out, and those are strengths that we want to continue to lean on. Guys that do some things really, really well, and I think one thing we do well on offense, obviously you're talking about some of the offensive injuries, is we've done a really good job personnelling teams. But now we have a variety of personnels that we can use when you start getting guys healthy, and it makes you multidimensional, and gives you an opportunity to use guys with their strengths.
Looking ahead at the forecast for this week, we're going to see a lot of rain and also some really high wind gusts. If it tends to, roll over into the game on Saturday, how important will your run game be in executing that area of the offense?
Well, I think our run game is important regardless. But the good news is we've had, a lot of experience in unique weather games this season. So I think we're prepared for it. We're prepared for those moments. We'll be able to adapt, accordingly. But regardless of the weather, we want to make sure that we're effective in the run.
Dan, just a little bit of a follow-up. Why do you think you have the best job in America? It's kind of a layup question for you. But what is it about Oregon that makes it such a place that is ready to succeed?
Yeah. It starts with people. And I think it always starts with people who you get to work with every single day, the people you get to go to war with, and the people in that locker room, the people I get to coach with. I think that's where it starts. That's unique. That doesn't exist everywhere. We've been lucky to, bring some great people here and watch them develop and grow, and we become really a family. I think that's a big piece of it. I think back to specific Oregon, the continual push of the organization to be innovative on the cutting edge, whether it comes to facilities, whether it's the approach of how can we continue to improve, enhancing nutrition, the weight room strength. I think all those things add up. And then ultimately for me, my family, we absolutely love it here. It's something we didn't know about. I think sometimes the unknown can be a really pleasant surprise, and the unknown of Oregon has become a really pleasant surprise for my family. A couple nights ago, we went on a walk and a neighborhood near us has Christmas lights all up through, and we're grading the houses and saying, okay, that's an 8, that's a 10. We don't have any Christmas lights on our house, but it's fun to grade other people's house. But just like moments like that, that doesn't exist everywhere. This is the perfect size city for us. Drive to work's the same every single day. I'm not big on traffic, right? I know that our players want to be here for the right reasons. Like all those things add up for me and say, okay, this is an unbelievable place that we get to be at.
Coach, I know that Malik Benson's definitely been like the hero of November, given some of the injuries at that position. But I wanted to ask you about Jeremiah and just what do you think makes that guy so special? And can you talk about the connection that he's formed with Dante?
Yeah. J-Mac is a guy that every single day since he's been here, he's gotten better and better. And he's attacked, he's improved. I think he's become really a sure-handed route runner. He's a guy that attacks the ball, plays with a level of juice. I think he's gotten a lot stronger through his routes and stronger just on the field. The prep work that J-Mac does has really paid off. He's a guy that's always getting extra catches, getting extra work. And just the familiarity with offense. It's hard coming in your first year and picking it up. And he's been able to really grow in that year too. And then obviously, like you said, there's a natural chemistry there with him and Dante.
Kind of back to why you like being here. I think D'Anthony Thomas shared a video. You were playing disc golf.
No, I wasn't playing disc golf. I was on a walk, bro. I go on walks every once in a while. I was on a walk and D'Anthony was playing and he wanted to show me one of his drives. You call it a drive with the Frisbee?
I guess.
He threw it well. But yeah, I didn't join him, but I saw him out there in the park.
I was just going to ask, how often do you do that type of stuff? Because normally the narrative around coaches is they're not leaving their office right now. They're 24 hours focused on their job. Why is that important to you to get away and do all that stuff here in New Jersey?
It's part of my routine. It's not every day. It doesn't happen Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but it can happen on a Thursday, right? On a Thursday, we've got a lot of our planning. I think it's important for me to go get a walk in. So I'm not walking for like 4 hours, right? And I'm not running, right? I should be running, but I'm not doing that. So, and what's great, we got some unbelievable trails out here. You can hit a different path just about every day if you wanted to walk every day. So when I can, I love to try to get out there, set the timer for 30 minutes. When it goes off, turn around, come back, get back to work. I'm not big on eating lunch, so that's kind of a lunch window for me, and then go from there.
A routine for Coach Lanning, going on walks, making sure he's reset internally, externally, getting ready for this Saturday against James Madison at Autzen Stadium. That's Coach Lanning, brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Better cancer care close to home. On YouTube, have a few questions. Is DeCorian Moore going to play on Saturday at Autzen? And then is Eastu going to be back on Saturday? I'll answer it the same way I think Coach Lanning would. We'll see. Who knows? I guess we'll find out on Saturday. All right, more coming, previewing this matchup against James Madison coming up on Saturday, 4:30, college football playoff. Dusty Harrah in studio joining us, talking about the matchup when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
When life blindsides you with an injury, you need a team that's tough. For over 30 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people. This season, we're proud to partner with Oregon Athletics. Because whether it's on the field or in the courtroom, we're both determined to do what it takes to win. Morgan & Morgan, proud partner of Oregon Athletics. Injured? Dial pound law. Morgan & Morgan, 10150 Southwest 6th Avenue, Portland. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Wednesday, getting you geared up for the matchup on Saturday, the college football playoff matchup for Oregon against James Madison. We'll be up in the booth with the rest of the crew, Jerry, Jorgie, Joey up there on the sidelines, Dusty Harrah, who was here yesterday. Him and Joey Mack broke down the matchup in the first college football playoff game being played in Autzen Stadium. The conversation with the sideline reporter Dusty Harrah and Joey Mack.
Playoffs.
Yeah. Playoffs?
I was wondering if you would go there.
Of course I'm going to go there.
Yeah, that was good.
Are you kidding me?
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Yes, in fact, we are talking about playoffs, heading in to a college football playoff game at Autzen Stadium. Dusty Harrah, I'm Joey Mack. Ryan's hosting the show today because I've got basketball coming up, and I'm over at Matthew Knight Arena right now. We're playing a little Inception game for you because Dusty Harrah is currently sitting in his office listening to this interview that we recorded yesterday.
Yeah, it was going to be weird that we just kicked Ryan out for one segment and then said, all right, Ryan, you can come back in.
Right.
You know,
strange.
We could have him just sit right over here or put him on the TV.
Yep.
Like before. But no, this is time traveling.
This is time traveling.
We're here.
It had to be done. It had to be done. So we just came up from practice and interviews, and I got to tell you, I'm just excited to be back at Autzen Stadium. You know, this will be the latest game ever played at Autzen Stadium. Just the way the schedule works now with the new home-hosted playoff games. And I just wanted to start here, Dusty. Like, I never take that for granted. You know, that you have another opportunity to play a game at Autzen Stadium. There's only a handful of teams that get to do that this late in the year. It's pretty special.
It's a playoff football game.
Yep.
Like, that's awesome. And the fact that the Ducks have gotten to a point where it is back-to-back playoff appearances, this one – you get to have it in your home stadium.
Yep.
It's really cool. And to kind of celebrate the players that are involved in it, I just got done talking with Bryce Betcher, who is a native Oregonian from Eugene and started his career as a walk-on. For him to wrap up his Oregon football career in Autzen Stadium for a home playoff game, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Oh, and you know, it's funny. Everyone talks about in the playoffs usually it's win or go home. And in the Ducks' case this time it's win or stay home. Yeah. Because that's the nature of a home-hosted playoff game, right? The Ducks are hoping to spend a lot of time out east after this. We got to take care of business against James Madison. We touched on James Madison a little bit when we spoke last week, Dusty, and I'm curious your thoughts now, a little bit more time to prepare for the Dukes. I said, hey, they're a lot like Oregon. They like to run the ball. They like to stop the run. That's the identity of this team.
Yeah, they are, and they're creative in their run game. They've got a running back who is small in stature but delivers a blow. He's shifty, presents a problem when you are that compact. I think he's like 5'7". I mean, he is, and so hiding behind offensive linemen and then that little burst where he can pop out and hit the hole at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's a good back. And make no bones about it, like this is where JMU is successful, is that they've got a bunch of guys with high motor and are quick as all get out. Yeah. And Wayne Knight, the running back, is one of those guys. You have a +1 run game because the quarterback, Lonzo Barnett, the third, he can run, and he is a threat to beat you with his legs. Like, those things present big problems for a defense because it's unique, especially when you think of the Big Ten, big bruising teams. It's not that they haven't played teams with speed because USC has a ton of speed, Indiana has a ton of speed, but it's a counter to what Oregon has seen and become familiar with.
You touched on Alonzo Barnett. I'm glad that you brought that up because it's one thing to just say, oh, it's a mobile quarterback. Well, in this case, he really has proven that he'll beat you by design and sometimes by improvising.
Yep.
And that's, to me, that's that next evolution of the quarterback spot. Like if you're a run first quarterback, yeah, that's going to leave some vulnerabilities in your passing game. If you're a throw first but you can run quarterback, Oh, okay. That tends to open things up. In JMU's case, it seems like it's both, right? He really is the dual threat.
And the most important thing is you just got to play discipline and play your keys. I mean, Damon Williams Jr. up in Seattle is one of those guys that he can beat you on the designed run in the improvised game as well. And Oregon did a fantastic job with the cage and really wrapping him in. But it takes great discipline. I mean, to say that, JMU has got guys that are fast, factual, true. But it would be disingenuous to say Oregon doesn't have big, strong, fast guys that have been playing really disciplined, key-based football, and that's going to be the key. I mean, that it really is discipline is where you win these types of games where, look, it's not a secret. Oregon has recruited at a higher level, has sustained a winning level, has played in a tougher conference. Like, all of those things are true. You still got to play discipline because that's where you get beat in these situations. If you play discipline, the athletes, the scheme, they're going to prove to be a winning formula.
Yeah, talking about Oregon's defense, this is a defense that's allowed the least amount of points in a regular season since 1966.
Yep.
Has routinely gotten better under Coach Lanning and now Coach Lupoy. And Coach Lupoy, I love what he said to the media this week. 'Cause, look, one of the storylines is that Oregon has two coordinators that are moving on to be head coaches, but are both, and have been insistent about this, they're both laser focused on the playoff run. And Tosh Lupoy even said, like, look, I wouldn't be the head coach at Cal if it wasn't for the players and what we've accomplished here at Oregon. Next opportunity is against James Madison.
Yeah.
Defense has been disciplined. Defense has been good. And that's a big reason why Coach Lupoy gets the congratulations for becoming the head coach at Cal.
But I love what he said because I think it was over my dead body I'm leaving these guys.
Yes.
Like, that is exactly why you hear connection to the players, connection within the players. It's within the coaching staff and those players as well. And that commitment that Coach Lupoy and Coach Stein have to the work that they've put in here and wanting to see that through, not just selfishly for themselves, but for the players that are here. Right. That you preach something, you preach connectedness. Yeah, we're going to see this through, and then I can go all in on my next venture, and that's great. Yeah. I mean, that's a winning formula no matter where you are.
He's Dusty Harrah. Now, I should say, too, Coach Lupoy with some late nights. He mentioned coffee, energy drinks. That's what happens when you're trying to do this. But Coach Lanning went through it when he took over at Oregon.
Yep.
I think that worked out pretty well here at the University of Oregon, at least so far. There's still more to accomplish here moving forward. All right, talking to you about, I think, JMU's defense now. And Oregon's offense, there's been such a discussion about players coming back and availability and injuries throughout the course of the year. Look, that's not unique just to Oregon. There's going to be injuries and attrition over the course of an entire season. But Oregon's offense has continued to be explosive. And the way that a lot of people have been asking me, like, how do you describe Oregon's offense? And I think it's multiple out of both necessity, but also because of the skill set of the players that the Ducks have. Early in the season, all we talked about was the depth at running back, how dynamic the tight ends could be, that they could utilize more two tight end sets. They didn't know going into the year they were going to have injuries at the wide receiver position, but the skill set and the depth has, I think, been a real, maybe defining characteristic of Oregon's offense.
Yeah, I've been asked the question too, like, what is this offense? Malleable. That's what it is, and
adaptable, whatever word you want.
Yeah, well, advantageous too, because whatever the personnel of the defense, if Oregon in this offense can scheme you up, they'll put whatever personnel works. Oregon, due to injury attrition in the receiver room, had to go to a lot more 2 tight end, 3 tight end sets.
Right.
That didn't affect the production. And that is where you go to, they are advantageous to whatever is presented to them, whether it's defensively or personnel-wise in availability for Oregon. And as time goes on, as guys get healthier and back, that makes it all that much more better for this offense to produce. And we talk about that with that running back room. Well, part of the things about that with the running back room is they had different punches for different styles that they wanted to play. They had speed, they had power, you had balance. And that is the biggest thing, is that this Oregon team is played with incredible balance start to finish all season long.
They have.
It has looked incredibly different at times, what that balance looks like in the run game and the pass game, but they have found a way to do that. And that is something that is really impressive when you've had games where you're missing your top three of your top 4 leading receivers against Iowa were not playing in that game, yet you find a way to win that football game, and you find a way to make big throws and big catches at the most opportune moments. The Washington game where Malik Benson takes it to the house and puts the final nail in the coffin. Like those moments, those guys stepping up, like it's been huge for this Oregon team to have that balance throughout.
Well, I think you talk about the balance. It's been true all year long where Oregon has, we've talked about all the numbers, one of 3 teams that has a top 10 scoring defense and a top 10 scoring offense. Now, I'm extending your metaphor to really the entire team. Like, at the end of the regular season, the Ducks are top 20 in basically every category that you're going to find, offensively, defensively. And that just speaks so much to the balance, the depth, I think, that this team has been built with. Keys to the game, what do you got?
Well, this is very Jorgy, but stop the run and run the football.
Thank you. This has been Mike Jorgensen with us on Duck Insider today.
To me, though, outside of those 2 things and where that kind of starts, it's a quick start, right? And it is a quick start after a layoff. This is like basically we're talking about coming out of a double bye week for Oregon. And those are difficult things to go through. And to be polished and to ramp things up a little bit early in the game, a quick start is really important because also when you're playing an opponent that's coming across the country and you're in that 5-12 matchup, leave no doubt early. The longer that you let teams in a playoff scenario in a win or go home situation, the tougher that game gets. So quick start, jump on them early.
Get that crowd into it.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. I hope you can't hear anything we say the whole game.
Me too. Me too. And that's the thing. I'm so excited for what Autzen is going to be like for a playoff game.
Me too.
Like that's going to be a really fun environment on Saturday evening.
College football playoff. Oof. 5 versus 12. Lastly, what's on Dusty Harrah's holiday wish list?
Oh, a win.
All right. Dusty Harrah. Bravo.
There we go.
Bravo. He was ready for that. Y'all see he was
a win.
A win. Yeah, that was good.
That's it.
Dusty Harrah, you're going to be dry on Saturday.
That's what I love that attitude right there. I love that attitude. I'm going to be dry.
Thank you, Dusty, Joey. I have sufficiently been kicked off of the desk. Hopefully during this break, I will get it back. Excited for this Saturday at Autzen Stadium. 4:30 against James Madison. I agree with Dusty Harrah. Quick start against the Dukes I think will be key for the Ducks. Taking a time out, hearing from the players' perspective when we return after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial.
Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA. It is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families. And one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
This message is for Karina, our mom who finished her high school diploma at age 28. Hi, Mom. It's Emmettith and Nicholas. Congratulations on getting your diploma. You worked so hard and have taught us so much. We love you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I have gotten my seat back here inside the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you at the desk on a Wednesday. Thanks to Dusty Harrah, Joey Mack for recording that interview yesterday, breaking down the keys to the matchup for Oregon against James Madison. The game on Saturday, 4:30, TNT, True TV, HBO Max. And the keys from Dusty Harrah: run the ball, stop the run, quick start. Well, I think the running game is going to be really key in this matchup. It's something that James Madison does really well on both sides of the ball. It's something Oregon does really well on both sides of the ball. Noah Whittington has been a key to Oregon's run game all year long. His preparation coming into his second iteration of the college football playoff. He was around the team last year when Oregon went into the CFP against Ohio State. Now this season, another year older, another year wiser, and those legs still look ever so fresh. Noah Whittington, his conversation with the media dating back to Monday. Let's hear from the running back.
Dan talked about this time, being away from the program being good for players to kind of just like reset and get mentally back in it. What was that like for you, and how have you seen the team come back and, ready, prepared for a game now?
It was like a breath of fresh air, honestly. We came back with tremendous energy. Guys seemed like they was itching to get back. I know I was. And, I feel like that week of practice we had, we flew around and we executed.
Just you're in a room with a couple of guys who don't have postseason experience. Just curious what you're telling guys like De'Ara and Jordan about what it means to prepare for a playoff game.
Just telling them, like Coach Lanning says all the time, there are no more bad teams. So going into this next phase of the season, I'm just telling them, like Coach Sam says, add more to your routine. What more are you doing that you weren't doing in the regular season so that you leave this season with no regret, just trying to cross all your boxes so that you're fully prepared when you go out there on Saturday.
I wonder what you maybe learned from last year's playoff and kind of maybe what the lingering emotions are there that could motivate this group this year to go further.
Obviously, last year didn't go the way we wanted, but, it's a new year. So, I've been just approaching it like a clean slate, not really carrying any bad emotions from last year, looking at this year as a new opportunity to just, go out there and play our style of football. But, yeah, last year didn't go the way we wanted, but it's a new year.
Dan has said that this team's had to operate after Indiana where there are no more hiccups. You can't lose anymore. How do you feel like this team's handled that pressure and apply it now into a situation where it truly is you lose, your season's over?
I think, we have a team full of warriors, so we have no fear. I feel like we've approached it like we've approached this whole season. We've been leaving it all out on the table, going to practice, flying around, just running towards it, running towards that pressure instead of feeling it and trying to shy away from it, taking it in and just being a realist and seeing it for what it is, taking it and embracing it.
Yeah, just building off that, as it relates to the preparation, especially the mental preparation for the playoffs, is there any difference in the way that you prepare for a game like this as opposed to sort of playoff-type games in the regular season like at USC or Washington? Is the preparation any different, or do you try to keep everything the same?
I think we keep everything the same because I feel like our preparation has been top tier all year. Going into this off preseason or postseason, Coach Lanning was basically saying like what we do here works. What we do during the regular season works. We just intensify it in the postseason. You might add a couple of extra hours, a couple of extra walkthroughs, but I feel like our routine and what we have been doing this regular season and carrying it throughout the postseason, it works. So
you guys have really steered into the FIBU mantra for the last couple of years, Noah. But when the national narrative and discussion is more about doubting JMU and whether a G6 team, two G6 teams should be in the playoff and how they'll match up with you, and like, as a guy who came from a G6 school, what do you think about doubting the lower conference teams, or what you see in this opponent who does have some good statistics in terms of run defense, and when people outside are doubting their ability as a guy who came from that level of football to get the success you're having here, how do you feel about when people are doubting that level of football?
I mean, I don't really care what other people are doing as long as our team is focused and, attacking them as, the next opponent. Down in the lower level team, I feel like it's the biggest mistake you can ever make. But I also feel like we're Oregon and we got to be realists about ourselves and who we are. They're a good team. And, all week we've been, approaching it like we're going to play UGA or Alabama. Like I coming from Western Kentucky, you know, we played teams like Indiana, and we almost beat them. So I feel like, you know, you can't doubt your opponents. You shouldn't doubt anybody. You know, they're a good team. They put a good season together.
Dan had said that he, like, for conference championship weekend, he had just been able to, like, sit back on his couch and really just kind of flip through the games and watch the channels and feel like a fan.
Mhm.
I'm curious if you had that experience, what y'all did for championship weekend.
Yeah, I just, you know, chill with my family, you know, watch some football. I felt like a fan too, you know, recovered. But I feel like the whole week I was just waiting for this moment. So,
Noah, I wanted to ask you about some of the offensive linemen that you're running behind, seeing some new pieces kind of step up, whether it's Fox or Janoris or Charlie when Poncho went down. What did you see from those guys, and what's it kind of like just running around behind rather some different pieces?
I didn't really feel different as far as like in game and playing. Like I didn't really feel a difference. I would just say, you know, just from a preparation standpoint that week, you know, those guys coming in and they always, you know, take practice reps and they always take middle reps and they always treat it as if they're going to get their opportunity on Saturday. So when the moment really came, it really wasn't any difference because of how we practice. You know, Coach Lanning always preaches strength in numbers, and throughout practice, you got different pieces mingling together and for certain reps. And sometimes in practice, I'm running behind those guys. So in the game, it doesn't feel any difference because, you know, yeah.
Anybody who's redshirting could play in the postseason, and obviously injured guys are on their way back.
Mm.
What have you seen by way of how Jaden has gotten himself ready to come back? We saw him obviously at Washington suit up and not get to play. And then how ready, if he had the opportunity, do you feel Mekhi is after not seeing the field for the last couple of months?
I feel like they both ready, you know, just because of how we are and how we approach practice as a room. You know, the standard doesn't change for anybody. So as hard as I'm going at practice is how hard they're going at practice. And, you know, from watching them practice and watching them go out there and take their practice reps, they ready. Like, I don't think it would be any difference just because of, you know, the level of talent our room holds and the level of standard we hold each other to. So with Jaden and Mekhi, if they do get their opportunity in the playoffs, I think they would go out there and ball out, honestly.
That's Noah Whittington getting Oregon prepared for this college football playoff game. Going to take a little bit extra now that we're in the postseason. Coming up on Saturday at 4:30 against James Madison. The running game, they're prepared. Someone who's part of the running game, but also part of the passing game. The tight end, he does it all. He's comfortable everywhere. Kenyon Sadiq getting prepared for this matchup against James Madison. What are the keys for Oregon's tight end? He spoke to the media on Monday.
Dan talked about the break being really good for you guys to be able to get away from the program for a few days and kind of reset. How has that kind of manifested itself, and what did it feel? What does it felt like to be back out there again, preparing for a game?
Yeah, I think it was kind of good for everyone to kind of get away for a second, clear their head, and come back. And you just feel fresh when you get back in the scheme and you get back running again. You start to feel fresh. So I think it's good for everyone.
Another opportunity at a playoff here for you guys, and what kind of has been the lead up to this one like compared to maybe last year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the home environment will be great. But no, I mean, we just got to attack it. I mean, we all know how it felt last year, so just a different mindset of, we don't want this to be our last game. And JMU is a really good team, so we just got to go out there and do our thing.
Obviously, Coach Merringer runs your room, but beyond your individual room, position-wise, what has he done behind the scenes in other meeting rooms offensively, Kenyon, for greater game planning each week and then on Saturdays from what you're not on the headset, but what you know of what he's involved with by way of calling the games?
Yeah, I mean, Merringer has an impact on every bit of the offense. Him and Coach Stein do a great job, and no, I think Merringer's kind of like the glue in my mind. He's talking with the O-line, he's talking with the quarterbacks, kind of just the tight end position. So, like I say, he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, you can tell, and the amount of work he puts in, so it's awesome to see.
Obviously, no guarantee, but looks like some receivers are back at work and you have a chance to play. What would it mean for this offense to be at full strength or a little closer to that on Saturday?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had everyone out there on a Saturday. So seeing those guys out there, it's great for everyone. Everyone's confidence levels, and I'm sure it's good for them as well too.
You guys are obviously not in this for individual awards, but when 4 of you guys get All-American honors from AP that are announced today, what does that mean to you? And the fact that it's kind of proof that the process is working here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's great, to get those accolades, rewards, and stuff. But we still have bigger things we want to go accomplish as a team, and I feel like those are more important.
Dan has said that you guys have had to operate for the last 6 weeks or so in the season of can't lose again. Now that you're in a position where you lose, you go home. How do you feel like that process is going to maybe make this team better for the situation that you're now in, where you truly is you lose, you go home?
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone realizes that there's no second chances in the playoff. So no, I think it's kind of just keep that mindset. But no, they've done a great job of kind of having us in that mindset the past 6 weeks, as you kind of mentioned. We couldn't lose again. Never knew that. So it's kind of that same mindset going forward of we can't make any mistakes when you play our best football right now.
And we just talked Will, and he was saying that he's really proud because you had worked through a period where you're pretty banged up, and then your November was really good. Just curious what you learned from the period where you were really working back from a couple injuries, banged up, and what just made November so great.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate throughout my career to not have a lot of injuries, so to kind of have some bumps in the road, I think it was good for me, just like maturity-wise. A lot of growth areas, whether it's in the treatment room, and just kind of understanding. I still need to prepare like I'm going to play the game, or those things right there. So I think it made me grow a lot in a lot of ways that I hadn't before, and I think it was really good for me.
Kenyon Sadiq getting the offense ready for the matchup against James Madison coming up on Saturday. When we come back on Duck Insider, continuing to preview the college football playoff for Oregon, round 1 at Autzen on Saturday, 4:30, TNT, True TV, HBO Max, Oregon Sports Network against James Madison. Also, it's Oregon men's basketball game day, Oregon women's basketball tomorrow. All of it previewing coming up when we return. Duck Inside on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
We know you turn to the Duck Store for all your game day needs. And for students at the University of Oregon, it's even more. Class supplies, jobs, a seat on our board, a place to take a quick coffee break. Because we're your student-first, non-profit college store, every purchase you make directly supports the very community we serve. From working in our counters to studying in the classroom, from directing our stores to cheering in the stands, the people we serve, the students, are the very people who are the Duck Store.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
You said you'd never buy your kid candy from the checkout aisle, or forget extra diapers. You'd never lick your thumb to clean their face. Never, ever become a minivan mom. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, no, it can happen. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk in temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano with you on a Wednesday on Duck Insider. No show tomorrow for Duck Insider. Oregon women's basketball with an 11 a.m. tip going up against Portland. So Chris Clayton will be on the air for the Oregon Sports Network, but no Duck Insider. And hopefully all of you are able to take a little time off work and get out to Matthew Knight Arena. It's field trip day at Matthew Knight Arena tomorrow, where Oregon will play Portland Portland early at 11 a.m. And tonight, it's a late-night matchup for the Ducks against the Portland Pilots on the men's basketball side of things. An 8 p.m. tip-off for Oregon against Portland on Big Ten Network. Felt like Oregon figured a lot of things out in their last game against UC Davis. And the Ducks will have to have things figured out here against Portland tonight, because if you remember, flashing back to last year, Portland was not an easy victory for Oregon last season. It took overtime, and the Ducks that needed some heroics to even get to overtime at Matthew Knight Arena last season against Portland. It was a game that saw 5 Ducks in double figures. Nate Biddle had 13. Jackson Shelstad had 13. Keyshawn Bartholomew was clutch down the stretch. He had 13. TJ Bamba had 10. And Jadrian Tracy led all scorers with 19 points for Oregon in an 80-70 overtime victory for the Ducks against the Portland Pilots. It was a game in which Oregon trailed 65-67 with 10 seconds left as Bam Tracy made a game-tying layup to send the game to overtime. It was a game that Oregon trailed by 5 with 30 seconds left before Keyshawn Bartholomew nailed a three-pointer to make it a 2-point game. Oregon is going to have to bring their A game here tonight against Portland in order to avoid the result from last season where it took overtime. It's a late-night game. Make sure, get some caffeine in you, get to Matthew Knight Arena, watch Oregon men's basketball tonight at 8 p.m. Also on the Big Ten Network will be where it's televised, and then stay, go home, but basically stay at the arena because it's an early morning tip for Oregon women's basketball at 11 o'clock against Portland coming up tomorrow. An in-state battle on the hardwood for both of these teams. Oregon women's basketball at 11-1, trying to continue their winning ways in their non-conference finale against Portland. Oregon men's basketball trying to stretch some games together after the first complete result for the Ducks in their last game against UC Davis. That's the hardwood hoops for the week before we get prepared for the gridiron. Coming up on Saturday, Oregon, James Madison, 4:30, Autzen Stadium, college football playoff. Jerry, Jorgie, Joey, they'll be back on the show on Friday to preview it all. Go Ducks.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things